So WPA2, it's also called robust security. It is a secure network, which is a type of association used by a pair of stations to establish authentication or association between them, and it includes the four-way handshake. Now, if you're not familiar with it, we'll briefly discuss the four-way handshake because it's the process of exchanging four messages between an access point and the client, and that'll generate some encryption keys which can be used to encrypt the actual data sent over wireless signals. The initial authentication process is carried out either by using a pre-shared key, a PSK, or an extensible authentication protocol, or EAPOL, that provides an authentication mechanism to devices wishing to attach to a LAN or a WLAN. So after the PSK authentication, a shared secret key is generated called the pairwise master key, PMK. So once the client has the PMK, it and the AP negotiate a new temporary key called the pairwise transient key, or PTK. So these temporary keys are created dynamically every time the client connects and is changed periodically. They're a function of the PMK, which is a random number generated by the AP, called an A nonce. Another random number generated by the client, that's called an S nonce. And the MAC addresses of the client and the AP. So the reason the keys are created from so many variables basically ensures that they are unique and non-repeating. So the four-way handshake, access point, and client are designed to independently prove their acquaintance with the PSK, PMK without disclosing the key. So instead of disclosing the key, the access point, the AP, and the client encrypt messages that can only be decrypted using PMK. And if the messages are decrypted, they will learn about the PMK. So four-way handshaking is critical for the protection of PMK from malicious access points so that the client never has to tell the PMK to the access point. Within a handshake, GTK, or the group temporal key, is also used to decrypt multicast and broadcast traffic. So GTK is the key that is shared between all client devices associated with one access point. So yeah, for every access point, there will be a different GTK which will be shared between its associated devices. And then finally, the master session is the first key that is generated, either from EAPOL or derived from PSK authentication. Wow, I know it's a lot, but once we understand the important keys and how they're generated, well, we can then have a look at the actual four-way handshake with much deeper understanding. All right? So let's work on it visually. Let's imagine an access point is configured with WPA2 PSK, and the device is trying to connect to it. So when the user clicks on the access point's SSID, so the access point sends an EAPOL message with an A nonce, a random number, to the device to generate the PTK. The client device knows the AP's MAC address because it's connected to it. It has PMK, S nonce, and its own MAC address. So once it receives A nonce from the access point, it has all the inputs it needs to create the PTK. So once the device has created its PTK, it sends out S nonce, which is needed by the access point to generate the PTK, as well as MIC, which is message integrity check, to make sure that the access point can verify whether the message is corrupted or modified. All right, so once S nonce is received by the AP, it too can generate PTK for unicast traffic encryption. So then the AP verifies message 2 by checking MIC, and if valid, it constructs and sends the GTK with another MIC. The STA verifies message 3 by checking that MIC, and if it's valid, the STA sends a confirmation to the AP. All right, so once the four-way handshake is completed successfully, now all unicast traffic will be encrypted with PTK, and all multicast traffic will be encrypted via GTK, which was created in the four-way handshake process.